because we used to hand water it, but it always used to be like I'd be going down and somebody would talk to me and I'd water that bit more than you'd tell. And if I said I hadn't watered this, you'd believe. So this basically now, this is the one-day international from last week. So this basically looked very similar to this, not really much difference in it. The only thing that hasn't had done at the moment is hasn't been rolled. So it's still got that stand up. So it's basically the grass is really soft. If you touch the grass, there'll be no moisture in it. Mark's just been up. You know, there's no real resistance in it. It's quite, you know, it's more softer in the middle. So what we found this year is, just saying, so we'd have played on this last Friday on the international. England knocked it off for no wicket. Actually, it was great. And what we found is, we've done this a couple of times, the way the fixtures have worked this year, we've had about a week between games of 2020. I haven't got a big enough square to keep moving. In an ideal world, I'd give you a new pitch. And so what we do, we'd always just come out at the end of the night, clean it and tidy it all up, and then we'd just get the hose out and just flash it down. That was great until somebody would go to me, Gaz, what do you want to do there? Or do you want this on here? And I'd stand there and go, oh yeah, and then it'd look like it had been watered because you'd come onto it again. So what I did, I've got a little Scott's sprayer, 60 litres of water. It's an electric thing. You know, they're a bit expensive, but you know, we do the whole square with it for seaweed and all stuff like that. And what I do is I fill it with 60 litres of water, and I start at the back there, and I bring the wheels up this side so it does half, and I come back down, it does half again, and just keep walking round about God knows how many times till it's all gone, and it's just a glisten of nice, even spread water. And all I do is sheet it over then. Stays sheeted then. We've had a championship game this week, which was on the pitch behind you, which I'll show you in a minute. So then I know, as soon as I took this, so we take the sheet off yesterday, or it had a mat on it, I literally know the pitch underneath is ready. The moisture's got to the plant, so it goes a little tint to green. I cut the green off, because the first time we did it this year, it was green. And I mean green, day before I was thinking, oh God, what have I done? You know, so I cut it, lad brushed it about 3 or 4 times, I cut it, and it went white straight away. Because you just took that little tip of the top off, and this basically, yesterday this was green. Now this will be rolled out, this will be white, it's dry, and all you've done is just restored it back to where it was. It was in a good place anyway. I've not done the moisture content on this, but I imagine if I did, it would be around the 29%, so it stayed the same in a week. So we're at a really good place, but it's ever so slightly, might be ever so slightly quicker tonight than it was for the ODI. We haven't had the sun, so I would argue that we're not going to have an absolute flight. It might go through better than I think, but I'm always a bit on the pessimistic side. As we look now, the reason we use this, each pitch on this square is treated exactly the same. No pitch is different, even the end ones are exactly the same. So now as you look, the middle one, the darker one as you look up, that was the Ashes Test match last year. Treated exactly the same as this one, and the only difference is when you get down to the day before. The day before is the moment we take our decision on what we're doing. So if I leave the grass covering on it nicely, it doesn't crack. It protects it from the wind, it protects it from all the elements. So like now, this is a week old, realistically. It's had a mat on it, it's been restricted with air movement, but it's not cracked. There's some little hairline ones, it's rock hard, and it's ready to go. And if I cut the ends off from about here, and took that end off, and I said this is a brand new pitch, yeah, I'd believe somebody telling me that, and it was England Sri Lanka. You know, you proper big boys on it that were putting it in high. Okay, Sri Lanka don't bowl at 89 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour, but Chris Wokes does. And you know, and so we tried that. That works really well. The biggest key to this square is moisture. Dennis Amos, when I first started, wished me all good luck and everything. He said to me, he said, Gary, he says, water, 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 water again. And when you think you've done it enough, water about 3 or 4 more times and water again. And I was a bit like, what are you going on about? And literally, if you keep the water in this square, it looks as green as this, it stays true, and you're okay. The moment you stop watering this square, it literally cracks and is virtually uncontrollable. And we do 30% moisture compared to a lot of grounds. So someone like Essex at Chelmsford stews on 24% moisture or 20% moisture. Not saying his is wrong and mine's right, but for that ground he can do that. Different type of soil, different way the land is, the outfields make a difference, the preparation. He might not be able to get the water on as I can, so he has to sort of regulate it, maybe older pitches, just everything. You know, if we went to 24% moisture on these, they would fly, and I mean be quick, but you'd be taking the risk that it would look like a mosaic out here, and I'd be walking off going, let's get away with that tonight. Whereas, like I say, there's no real cracks on this. You know, there's no bits. Mark's just been up this. I don't know if anybody saw him. Might not have done. And basically, we do a thing called we plug it. And I don't know if anybody's seen the plug-in. We could do it today. I've done it before. The New Zealand International last year we did it. And all it is, you can't see any, but there's probably some. So where a crack goes, like a small one there, and that bit was a bit weak if it was on the pitch and you could move a little bit or it's broken off, we just ram a stake in the ground, get a little motty of soil and water together, like Play-Doh, roll it up, little wriggly worm, straight in, tap it in, that hardens off and nothing then moves. We don't do very many, that's what your little footprints are. Mark's just kneeled up, going up it, and we do that. We do that on every pitch, and it's more a case of a peace of mind. Some groundsmen do it and don't tell people. I do it and tell people. Why is that? Because I'm doing it for a right reason. Last year we were battling because we had wet weather leading up. We cut it a bit short early. Prime example of cutting it short early here, and it just went a little bit slow. Actually got better through the day, but it was a little bit slow. The players said they struggled to whack it off the square, which is fair enough. It's a fair call. I know why it did it. We had bad weather and you try different things. Like I say, but if you go with the same mentality, and the reason I always say it back is we treat the Ashes pitch, which is the biggest game this ground will ever hold, the same as a 2020 tonight up to start point. Why is that? Because I don't have to get funded anything, I don't change anything. If I treat this the same and give Warwickshire the same as I do anybody else, I know exactly how to treat every pitch I come to prepare. And the only thing we differ would be, if this was a one-day international now and you came out and the game was 2 o'clock, say, because it'd be a 10 o'clock start, potentially the boys would be brushing this a lot now, brushing it more, just to stop any kind of movement off the pitch, just from my own peace of mind. Wire brush is not cutting it, just manipulating the grass to take any moisture out of it. Like I say, a couple of you have felt the pitch, there's no moisture in that, and this is ready to play. We can be covered up till 6:30 or 10 to 7, whole square, and we could still be playing at 7 o'clock. And that's the way we like it. Today's a nice day for us. It's the finishing touches, it's the mowing the outfield, it's the mowing the pitch. If you go like today's your panic day of it's not been marked out, I've got the staff, I can hopefully do it, but it's just the little jobs. We can't do the footholes too early because they end up cracking and they don't stay in, so they prefer them a little bit damper. The hover cover doesn't help that because it keeps moisture in. And again, the hover cover needs a bit getting used to. You know, you close the doors, this will start to go damp. So if you want it to zip around, you close all the doors and you keep it in a little microclimate. You open the doors, we've got a couple of blowers that we use for bouncy castle blowers. Push them through, just push any air movement through, stops it condensating, so the pitch doesn't get damp. You know, if you want it to be, the only problem is we find here, and it's a prime example last year for the Ashes actually, not the best time to find out. We got here at 5 o'clock and the grass was like pretty long, it was like 8-9 mil, and we were always going to take the grass off then and what England wanted and everything. So I brushed it and it looked, we'd brushed it, stood it up, trimmed it, and it was slightly damp, and it goes quite like a matty damp. And because it cracked a little bit, I rolled it. I always remember I had Dominic Cork up there doing talk sport, who's a really good guy, you know, he's really positive ground staff and stuff. So I brushed it, thinking that'll do, we're out there, and I rolled it, and it matty rolled. And if everybody's seen it when the grass is damp and it goes really matty, and all you could see was the crack lines in this mat. And to say I slightly worried myself would be an understatement, but fortunately because it was so early, because it was 5 o'clock, because it was damp, because the air around the hover was damp, all it was the grass was so long, it just literally took so we literally just brushed it loads of times, trimmed it down to 7 mil, gave it a couple of hours, and it literally disappeared. You rolled it and it rolled a total different pitch to that matty look, and all it was the grass. So the downside to it is you have to manage the grass. You have to understand that you sometimes take the hover off and go and have a cup of tea and let it dry, otherwise you can make it like this. This is a one-day pitch. This is a typical, I'd say typical my looking one-day pitch, but you're even happier at 30. You're not going to, it's like today, that's the next match pitch. 2 reasons we've covered it up. One, the wind dries the top out too quickly when it's the worst day to roll today because the wind will dry it out too quickly further underneath. And the other reason is I don't really want to be clonked on the head with a ball when they're netting. So we cover it up. So if we can't get on it, or if we're behind, we have to get on it. If we can't get on it, so this weekend, the moment this game finishes tonight, we'll have a single sheet because we've worked some silly hours, so we're going to be off this week, which the boys are quite pleased about. Because we normally work every weekend. There's always someone here. So that pitch will be, under sheet, that sheet and a 50-foot sheet round it. The rest of the square will be bombarded with water for the whole weekend. With pop-up there's 4 pop-up sprinklers at each end. So 1, 2, 3, 4 will go on for about 70 minutes, 80 minutes for the whole weekend. And literally, the time we get here on Monday morning, there'll be virgin flooding, but it'll penetrate through. That'll add that side of moisture back again to where it should be. And then what we'll do, the moment this pitch is finished against Hampshire, we go back over there for a game. This side gets that, and if you know what I mean, it's likewise. So we're trying to always. The only time it's a bit of a problem is the pitch you were just standing on there is a Royal London game. You sometimes have to do it by hose, and you're a bit sort of restricted on what you can do. But this one was restricted. This one was prepared when the ODI was being prepared. This one was prepared under sheets. The only thing you'd notice about is there's no ball marks. There's only like red, and that's the one thing we try not to. We try not to make it so it's indentations, because that's when it'll go up and down. It has to be clegging over 220 for that. So 220 onwards here, we know it's never going to indent, and that's why we do the clegg test. I enjoy my job too much, and I take a lot of pride in what I do. So, is there anything anybody wants to know? Is anybody? I can't tell you anything. How much do I get paid?
Not enough.
Not enough. A good enough salary.
How many people have you got working for you?
We've got 6 of us.
You said you cut the outfield so many times a week. Where do you put the grass?
Skip. In a skip, or we've got an old rugby field over there. Believe it or not, the amount of grass we take off is, I think we cut on Friday a couple of weeks ago when it had been raining. It was nice. We cut on the Friday. We took about 16 boxes off. We cut on the Sunday again after one lad had cut on the Saturday. We cut on the Sunday at the same height, and I think we took 20 boxes off. But normally, like today, the lads have only took. Now we've gone a bit shorter, and it's been verti-drained. It has panned out to be about 4 or 5 boxes a day for both of them. We can put growth retardants on, Primo Max and stuff like that. It's expensive-ish, but the downside to Primo Max is, if anybody's used it, it's a growth retardant. You add fertiliser to it to kick in the 2, but it kills meadowgrass, which some people say is quite a good thing. It is. If you've got quite a bit of meadowgrass in your outfield and it starts to go yellow, it shows up more than, I can't afford to treat this because I haven't got the budgets. I know what I would do to it, but I can't. So what I do is I live with it and just verti-cut it. And the reason we cut really short, we went 9mm the other day to dry it out, and it looked awful. But the reason was we were supposed to get it verti-cut, but we couldn't because it was so wet. So I took the decision to shave it really short for what this is, to try and dry around the leaf. And actually, inadvertently, it worked. You're right.
You're not happy with this outfit?
No. Not the moment. But then I should never be happy with anything I do, because the moment I get happy is the moment I rest on my laurels. Look, I'm happy with it in the sense of it looks nice, the lads do a fantastic job, and I'm very happy of the finances I have. I bet if I asked you now, how much do you think my winter budget is to put this outfield back to where it should be? I bet you wouldn't. How much do you think I could to make this outfield work and to drain at 40 mil an hour every year? How much do you think I have to spend in the winter on it? 20 grand I have to do that. Bearing in mind, to put a new pitch in at West Brom, there's 3 football pitches here, virtually, give or take. West Brom's football pitch is 1.4 million. And so you're
still working on it?
Shoestring, yeah. Villa Park, Aston Villa 2 years ago spent 63,000 on undersoil heating at their training ground. That's my budget for everything for a year and a half. And I'm not going to moan about that because I get a better budget than a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have to, so to my budget and what I do and how I stretch it and move it around, we do well. But if you give me like I say, Mick could say the same with us, but meadowgrass gets everywhere. There's meadowgrass, if you know your grasses, and I'm not going to put it out, but there's meadowgrass in this pitch. And the reason you can't see it is because we brush it so much. We turn that meadowgrass into smooth grass. If you put your hand on this pitch, it is really smooth, like a feather. And that's down to brushing. If you get the brush, our push brush, and go up and down there, you'll see just a load of brushed grass in front of it. And And we did that, the first time we did that with the England-New Zealand game, because we had loads of time and we were brushing it more and more. After every day, after every roll, we brushed it to stand it up, see if it had dry, and it worked a treat. And from that moment on, we've done it every game. And our pitch marks, the one thing we've got rid of is leaving grass on and it doesn't nibble around. And I think that helps us because we can leave the grass like this. This is like, say, you can see cracks. I'm not going to argue, but none of them move. It's absolutely solid. And if I was playing, I could play tonight on this, and I don't think I'd. Net area, pretty obviously. There's 24 international pitches on here that we use. It's one of the only facilities like this in the country. There's a couple of grounds. Leicester, I know, has got it, but a lot of grounds have got nets on. The Oval have got nets on the square. This place here, Mark's over there at the moment. Mark looks after this on his own, and I oversee it, I suppose. But Mark does all of the prep work on here, all of the actual jobs on here he does, and he does an absolute. I can't put enough credit on him. It's brilliant. England love it. They especially love the football pitch. It's amazing, really. Stick a couple of goals up and stripe it up, and as you talked to them last week, how are the nets? Oh, the football pitch is brilliant. Nets can be rubbish. So we put that up. There's certain things we've done to it over here over the last few years. It was always a net area, but it was always a case of that'll do. I don't know if anybody noticed as you drove in, there used to be a net area there, and that used to be really good. Really good area. Mark looked over after that, and another guy looked over here. He left to pursue another job, actually, and done really well for himself. And Mark came over here, and we sort of made a decision, rather than employing someone, and that was going to go anyway. We were just going to have this area, solidly put in the money into it, get new nets, bring the circular netting system over from over there, proper covers, everything was going to be thrown in. At the time, the pitches were only about 2 years old, so we always had that worry that they only ever lasted a week. So we were like, oh, this is going to be a bit of a battle on our hands. Recognisable. It's just fantastic. We now have everything over here is exactly the same as over there. Grass seed's the same. It's cut the same. We cut it slightly different on here, obviously, because it's just really underneath. If you try and dig anything out, it's just waste ground underneath with bricks and everything. We get enough net. There's enough nets, sheets now. These are brand new nets that we've designed ourselves. That basically, if you want it as a cage, you can drop the other end, and then we haven't quite designed this probably yet. But this basically, if you say you want to bowl all the way through and have a keeper, this just comes up and you flick it over the top. The net system moves, so this will move across that way. Needs 3 of you at that end, you just pull it over, you undo it at that end. These are finished with now. These are the last days these will have play on them. Like I say, they've been going for like 3 or 4 weeks now, and they're just going a little bit low. They're fine, they're not bad nets, they're just at their point of beyond that point. And that's basically down to the weather we've had. The water runs straight down the hill and straight underneath the sheets, and it gets the new ones wet. Like I say, it's done for range hit, any hitting they do over here for fielding. The only thing they can't do over here is range hitting, because it's not. Australia tried to do it last year, year before, and David Warner put about 20 balls in Cannon Hill Park, which is just at the back. We've got sight screens, white and black ones. Again, it's another thing we sort of had to get round, is how do you get sight screens when you've got to move them and stuff. So we put them on a wire. It's not ideal, but actually it works quite well, because all Mark does, he's not got it at the other end, he's pull it back. But normally there's a black sight screen, goes all the way along. It's about 50 foot long, totally drops to the ground. Day like this, it blows all over the place, but actually it does stay in place. And the lads have got a sight screen there. Again, because the nets are like this, not many balls come out high-wise. Most of them just go out flat. We've only ever fertilised the squares twice this year, and the outfield hasn't been fertilised for 2 months. And all of that has been seaweed put on it after. We seaweed with a liquid on the square, and we seaweed with a granular on the outfield, and that keeps its colour better than just adding fertiliser all the time and creating any problems. Yeah, and pretty much what you see out there is what you see in here.
Gary, when last Friday's match at the interval, you were rolling the county wicket for the circle.
Yes.
And then afterwards you got 2 lads and brushing them.
Yeah.
Was that to get moisture up, or just to let the grass?
No, like I said earlier on, we find here, the pitches are fine, but if you stop rolling, even if it's once a day at 10 minutes in the morning, they crack more. And it's moisture coming up to the surface, and it's only a fraction of an amount, because it was, you saw that was the same pitch you saw. And basically all you're doing is, I used to find, and it was something Steve taught me at Trent Bridge, day before a game, we never used to always do it at wherever I've been before, but we'd go on our hands and knees at Trent Bridge, and you go along, and sometimes you find a grass plant that's slightly wider, it might be a bit of meadowgrass or just a grass plant, and if you brushed it up just with a little hand brush, there would be damp underneath, and it'd be only like the minutest bit, and it'd be so sad to do it, you know, realistically, but you could put your thumbnail in it, or you could get erase it, so you just thought to yourself, hang on, if the ball hits that, it won't react bad, but it might just make an indentation. So what we do is we do that early on, so every time you roll it, the grass plant, rather than sitting flat, stands back up. So any air movement goes round as best you can. You know, you're not going to do every, and I'm not saying I want the lads to go on their hands and knees every time, because I think I'd have about one member of staff, and that'd probably be me. So what we do, the brushes you saw them doing it with, I think they did them with the sweeping brushes, but if the grass is a bit more vigorous, we use like a metal brush, you know, like you see for patios.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a wire brush. So you can do it on your hands and knees, but I just think it's a bit unfair on the boys to be on their hands and knees doing it. I generally will check, but literally just get one of those and just go up. That's only a real last thing, but it's only to stand it up, and the umpires don't mind you doing that. If you take any machinery out, they're a little bit, roller-wise, you're fine. And the downside is, on an international, you can't cover it up.
No.
So tonight, you'll see where that white sheet was. We'll take that off in a bit, and the lads will roll it. There'll be a mat on that tonight, because it's quite damp. You don't want anybody to scar it. But for an international, they won't let you, because they say that a player could trip over, and they don't want to risk anything. So basically, they could have ruined my pitch for Sunday.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's a get out of jail free card, because if somebody goes sliding over it, there's not a lot I can do. And it's the ECB that put my fixtures in. So yeah, that's why we do it. Stops it cracking. So tonight, Mark, as soon as the mat will go up, one of us, me, Mark, we'll probably do 20 minutes rolling on Hampshire pitch for a week on Sunday. Power roller, the 3.5 ton one. Very good machine, wouldn't hear a bad word against it. The only downside here was the pitches went very hard very quickly, and to control that was, I don't want to risk going into a season learning to control it. It might end up being better, but my pitches are, well, hopefully pretty good anyway, so I was a bit like, we'd done too early on and they went rock hard after like 3 days, and I thought, well, I'm not going to go down to 7 days prep because it might not be ready. So Steve's using it at Trent Bridge, he said it's really good. Worcester are using it, it's a very good roller.
Would you recommend rolling, get more bounce?
Depends where you are. I would never ever say do exactly as I do here. I've learned a lot of things from a lot of people, whether it be international grounds or a club ground. I worked at a club ground for 5 years before I came to, when I was at Leicester. The biggest thing I would say is learn your ground. We find here, if we get, like I say, I've got all my charts, and I'm a bit sad. I've got a whiteboard and I put on all my charts, and like this year, as I said to you early on, we had one pitch that just played up a little bit. And if you look at all my charts, and I said to you, find me the pitch, if I took my ratings off down the side, and majority of our pitches here have been marked very good or good this year, except one that got marked poor, which I'm really pleased about. Yeah, so the biggest thing I can go with, we played New Zealand here last year, England got 408, everybody was saying it was an absolute belter, brilliant, so that's great, pats on the back all round. But you only sort of want to walk away from it going, well, why was it? Because I thought the one last week was a belter and that didn't play as well. But actually, I noticed that we were brushing more, we left a little bit more grass on, and then at the end of the season I'd put how many hours we'd roll. So me or Callum, who rolled the pitches, walked off, and we always write Monday to Friday, or Monday to Sunday, and we'll put 1 hour 40, 2 hours 20, you know, what we've rolled through the day. And we found that every time we got a mark that was very good, we rolled over 8 hours. And we joked to say the magical 8 hours. In the preparation of the 14 days, we'd rolled over 8 hours. And I kept just going, surely that can't be all it takes, is you have to hit 8 hours, and anything more, not silly, not go 20 hours or the more, because you get to a point where it's just ridiculous. And we noticed that we literally, we get that all the time. It's called the Village Idiots of Birmingham's Association. Yeah, and we noticed the 8 hours or more, that generally the pitches were a lot better. It's like we had one, we played Worcester here in a T20, we did 5.5 hours rolling. I can show you a picture of the pitch now, and it looks an absolute belter. You walked off going, hello, Luke, thank you very much. And I think it was a decent score, 130, umpires marked it above average and said it lacked a lot of pace. And you're like going, Christ. and you can't, but I have to learn what they're telling me. You can get quite cynical on it, if I'm honest. But the moment you sort of analyse it a bit more, you can read into what you want. But the umpires are the biggest guides to what we do, really, and that's unfortunate because some of them, they're all really nice guys, but you get such a broad spectrum, you know, of marks. Some mark it on the game and how the pitch is played in the game. Some will go, you know, it's been an absolute belting game of cricket. I got one the other year where Warwickshire got bowled out for 87 before lunch on the 4-dayer, and then no, it wasn't actually. It was against Sussex, and then Bell got 187 the third day or second day, and Sussex got 330 to win the game. It was the biggest turnaround of scores, and everybody was coming up to me going, "Oh, it's an absolute brilliant pitch." Carry bounce, April the 6th or something like that. And on the pitch report, it nibbled around a bit, but I don't play cricket as much as any of those guys do. And as I say, he said you couldn't play soft hands. Everything was just nicking straight to slip, and we were playing expansive cover drives to do everything. And on my pitch report at the end, and I can show it you, it said, "Excellent cricket wicket, very good, great spectacle for everybody that came to watch, brilliant cricket played on it, above average." And the reason, and he says, we've got to mark this above average because it did too much on the first hour of the first day, and we're April. So I walk away going, I said to the umpire afterwards when he came back, and I'm not funny with them at all, I said to him, I would sooner have that, and the 500 or 600 people here, or whatever it was, a couple of thousand people here, coming up and going, "Oh, brilliant pitch." I'd sooner all you come to watch a game of cricket and leave going, "Well, I enjoyed Edgbaston, the atmosphere was great, the cricket was great, it was bat versus ball, there was snicks, there was wickets, everything," than somebody coming and an umpire going, "Yeah, it's above average." I'd sooner have that than all the umpires go, "It was an absolute belter," and everybody walk away going, "It's too flat." "Oh, I didn't see any wickets," or one wicket, you know, and stuff like that. So it's a very fine line, but I've got to have the players to play on it, really. That's the biggest problem. The score is, I go, because all you want is middle of the road. So when you see all the scores around the country, so 160, 160, you want to be 160. I don't want to be, oh yeah, I like it when Brendan McCullum got 150, I think it was great, but actually 160, 160 to Edgbaston doesn't look any different to anywhere else. And it's the worst thing in the world, because I'll be on my phone, I'll be going, "Oh, what's the score at Trent Bridge? Oh, hell, they're 97 for 1 off 8 overs. Oh, we're only 25 for 1 off 8. Oh, bloody hell." And you sit there, and it's the loneliest place in the world, because nobody ever really understands. Test match morning, I'm an absolute nightmare.
Watching that first ball.
Oh, and it's, you know, but then you have so I'm there. So I'm mostly now, I'm here. Then I go to, well, lower than that. And then all of a sudden you get to day 3 and you get people like Jeff Boycott coming up to you, "This is one of the best test pitches I've ever seen." So you go through the roof and you're like, how's my emotion state gone? And then I just get, like I said, get drunk after that, and that makes it seem a lot better. But it's so the prime example the other day when we played Notts, there was 55 runs for 7 wickets in about 2 sessions. I went and mowed the practice ground over there, got the WhatsApp, put my headphones on, talk sport, straight away over there. I can't watch it. Can't watch a ball being bowled. 2 days later, the umpire said, "Oh, your pitch was marked very good. Really good pitch, good carry, good bounce, no spin, a little bit of spin, but not a lot, little bit of nibble, really good pitch, well done." Yet 2 days earlier, I'm going to cut the practice ground because I'm thinking, Christ, why is all these wickets going down? And yeah, I've done this job since I was 17. Yeah, that another ball being bowled. So it's a very, so never ever take, do you know, I can't watch a ball, I can tonight, I'm not too bad on these, you know, and I've actually got a bit better, but I don't really watch a lot of cricket unless it goes well. If it goes well, I'll watch it on telly when I get home. And yeah, exactly. And I'll be honest with you, it's lovely when people say nice things about you, so you watch it. If they slag it off, they're talking a load of rubbish. Don't watch it then. Yeah, exactly. Slightly undercooked, if it's slightly cracked more. The Somerset game here, when it wasn't great, it was touch and go. Like I say, I wouldn't say it was my best work, but I wouldn't say it was.
So on the 4-day pitch then, would you put colours on every night?
Yeah, it has to be the same cover as we do the first night.
You don't leave it, even though the weather's going to be good for next day, always covers on.
So if you put down on the first night, whatever you cover on the first night, is it the first night or the night before? Whatever you've covered at the start of the game has to be the same, even if it's supposed to be a scorcher. Some grounds are, Some umpires are pretty good that you can, you know, like if it's an absolute, it's going to be a lovely evening, they don't expect you to put, there is a minimum requirement, you know, and basically I'd get it in the neck if we didn't do it. It hasn't done anything, you know, so what do you cut your pitch at first day? You know, do you cut it at, what, 13 mil, or do you cut it at, you know, so I've always sort of gone in the middle and gone at about 10, and you just take enough off. But no, whatever you cut it at, so last championship match was 7 mil on my on the last morning before the game starts. So every morning at 9 o'clock it has to be cut at 7 mil. You can't brush the pitch over the past the 5 foot, you can't touch it. And then roller wise, the home team can choose if the heavy roller is available. We like it here. I think it's all right to have it, doesn't do anything really here. Warwickshire could have used it once, either that being between innings, in the morning, but the moment they've used it, so if, I don't know, say Nottinghamshire bowled out 152, Warwickshire come out and say we don't want it, they've still got it to use maybe the following morning. And then it was interesting, the last game, we reckoned it sped the pitch up. I've never really heard that before, but they reckon the pitch got quicker. That's why we lost a few wickets. But no. Yeah, but no. What's that? We go, what, 312 for, yeah, and we were 29 for 3. But then they had it, because they hadn't used it, and then they said it flattened the pitch out. But I generally think that at domestic you should do everything the same as international. International you can have it every morning. I'd make 4-day championship cricket, 5-day championship, and just mirror.